Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Jimmy Dore Show. I'm here with the miserable liberal, Steph Zamorano. She looks nice on camera. I just want to remind everybody what's going on is exactly like what happened in 2013 in a sense that all the establishment media is on board with the government narrative that we have to go to war because there's a bad dictator somewhere doing mean things to people. Meanwhile, we're selling cluster bombs to Saudi Arabia to bomb the poorest people in fishing villages in Yemen. We set the Middle East on fire in Iraq, killed 1 million people, did the same thing in Libya. Now we wanted to say, we don't give a shit. So let's just keep that in mind. And let's remember the last time what happened, too. So remember the last time we had conclusive proof? Remember the last time we had proof there was chemical weapons? 1 million people died. Remember that? He was like, these aren't assertions. These are facts. That's what they were saying at the UN. So let's just keep that in mind. Because now the White House released a big document that's saying that they know that it was the Syria government that did the gas attack. So this is from RT. This is their article. It says White House claims us on Syria chemical attack obviously false, said MIT professor. Huh? So the MIT professor. So now I can't do it in every video. Go to look at the other video where we debunked the false flag claims of 2013. So in 2013, people forget. I'll remind you real quickly that there was a gas attack in Syria. The rebels did it to themselves. They got the gas through Turkey. The rebels, meaning ISIS, did it to themselves because they were losing. And they wanted to get the United States in the war. And they needed to give them a reason to do it. Oh, look, Assad's gassing his own people. Turns out he wasn't. They did an investigation. He wasn't. And we didn't bomb that time. But we did start bombing Syria. We ran out of bombs in Syria. And now this time, before there was an investigation, we bombed again. Okay, so now the MIT guy who debunked the last time there was a chemical attack, he's back again. On Tuesday, the White House released a declassified intelligence brief accusing Syrian President Bashar Assad of ordering and organizing the attack, in which Syrian planes allegedly dropped chemical ordnance on civilians in the rebel-held town. The report contains, this is according to the MIT guy, the report contains, quote, absolutely no evidence that this attack was the result of a munition being dropped from an aircraft. Not only does it not connect Assad to it, he's saying that there's not even evidence that it came from a fucking plane. Wrote Massachusetts Institute of Technology professor Theodore Postal. I believe it can be shown without doubt that the document does not provide any evidence whatsoever that the U.S. government has concrete knowledge that the government of Syria was the source of the chemical attack in Khan Sheikhoun, wrote Postal, the MIT professor. A chemical attack with a nerve agent did occur. It did occur, but the available evidence does not support the U.S. government's conclusions. I have only had a few hours to quickly review the alleged White House intelligence report, but a quick perusal shows without a lot of analysis that this report cannot be correct. It is, and I put it in red so you know it's important. It is very clear who planned this attack, who authorized this attack, and who conducted this attack itself. Who said that? Did the MIT professor say that? Who said it? Defense Secretary James Mattis. He told reporters that. Before the investigation. That's when he said it. Even though all the evidence points the other way, he's sure of it. Just like Colin Powell and Dick Cheney and George Bush were sure of it. And it doesn't matter. By the way, even if this is true, what the government's saying, which it isn't, we don't give a shit about people. So they killed some people with gas. Now we're going to kill some people with bombs. We just dropped a bomb 1 inch short of a nuclear bomb in Afghanistan yesterday. That's okay. We use depleted uranium bombs all over the place in the Mideast. Those are chemical weapons. Those cause birth defects. We know it does. So even if it was true that Assad did this, we don't give a shit. We sell cluster bombs to Saudi Arabia. They drop them on fishing villages in Yemen. We don't give a shit. We killed 1 million people in fucking Iraq. We don't give a shit. We have a torture facility in fucking Cuba. We torture our own soldiers when they reveal war crimes of our own government. We did it to Private Manning. She was tortured. We don't give a shit. So I hear this from grown-up people saying, we're there on humanity. We have to help the people of Syria. Oh my fucking Christ, how stupid people can be. What? Have you never read a book? Have you never watched a TV show? Have you never watched this show? Did you not see what happened in the Iraq War? You didn't see what happened in the Iraq War? How about the Vietnam War? Another false flag? Government lied us into the fucking longest war, Vietnam. Everybody forgets that. And by the way, nobody goes to jail for lying us into wars. Even after it's revealed, people lied us into wars. Nobody goes to jail. Nobody gets in trouble. Never even a hearing. Did they ever have a hearing about the Iraq War? Who ordered war crimes? No. So that's funny. The MIT professor says the exact opposite that the government says. Who you gonna believe? Earlier in the day, White House spokesman Sean Spicer also said that doubting the evidence would be, quote, doubting the entire international reporting crew documenting this.
Oh, don't do that, Jimmy.
Oh, well, you don't want to do that.
Mm-mm.
The report offered by the White House, however, cited a, quote, a wide body of open source material and, quote, social media accounts from the rebel-held area, including footage provided by the White Helmets Rescue Group, documented to have ties with the jihadist rebels. So the White Helmets aren't what they appear to be either. I know they got an Academy Award, but there's lots of reporting that the White Helmets are on the side of the terrorists trying to overthrow Assad. That they're not neutral actors. There's lots of reporting that says that about the White Helmets. Eva Bartlett from Canada, who we've showed on this show, she went to Syria. She had the same reporting about the White Helmets. That they're in collusion with the jihadist rebels, meaning ISIS, Al-Qaeda, al-Nusra, Saudi Arabia, and Qatar. That's what they mean by Western and Gulf Arab governments. That the White Helmets are not neutral actors. So just keep that in mind. They'll never tell you that anywhere. Any competent, this is from the MIT professor, he says any competent analyst would have had questions about whether the debris in the crater was staged or real, he wrote. No competent analyst would miss the fact that the alleged sarin canister was forcefully crushed from above rather than exploded by a munition within it. So he's examined the evidence, and he said it's obvious that this sarin gas canister wasn't dropped from above, it was crushed. Instead, the most plausible conclusion is that the sarin was dispensed by an improvised dispersal device made from a 122 millimeter section of rocket tube filled with sarin and capped on both sides. We again have a situation where the White House has issued an obviously false, misleading, and amateurish intelligence report. Let me read that again. We have a situation where the White House has issued an obviously false, misleading, and amateurish intelligence report like they did in 2013. He concluded, recalling the 2013 situation when the Obama administration claimed Assad had used chemical weapons against rebels in Ghouta near Damascus. What the country is now being told by the White House cannot be true, MIT professor Postel said. And the fact that this information has been provided in this format raises the most serious questions about the handling of our national security. Turn off MSNBC and turn off CNN and ABC, NBC, and CBS and stop reading the New York Times and stop reading the Washington Post, because they're not telling you what's going on. This is exactly what happened before. It will happen again. This is exactly what Chomsky said the media does. This is exactly what they're doing. They're manufacturing consent. They're not waiting for. It's unbelievable. If you work for MSNBC, you get $30,000 a day to be an on-air host. Do you think they're going to say anything that's going to possibly screw that up? No. Because it's been proven when those hosts do say something to screw that up, like tell the truth accidentally, they get fucking fired. Look up what happened to Phil Donahue. Look at this channel, our Phil Donahue video. The way Chris Matthews smeared him. What happened was Phil Donahue was right about the Iraq War. He was against it and questioned it. And they fired him and canceled his show, even though it was the highest rated show on the network at the time. And they said they fired him and canceled his show for low ratings. He had the highest rated show on the network at the time. And then a memo came out later that said they had to fire him because they didn't want an antique war guy on TV looking unpatriotic. That's MSNBC. So Phil Donahue's gone. Let's move Brian Williams right in. He's going to tell us how beautiful the bombs are. Give that guy a raise. Do not listen to Rachel Maddow. Do not listen to Chris Hayes. Do not listen to Wolf Blitzer or Jake Tapper. Do not listen to these people. Chris Matthews. It goes without saying, don't listen to Chris Matthews. Do not listen. Here's the MIT professor on RT. Let's listen to what he has to say.
The White House report, it cites physical evidence. It talks about a crater where it claims there is a munition. Well, as it turns out, I have been studying this particular possibility for quite a while. And my conclusion is that if this is a real crater, remember that there is a lot of tampering with evidence. But if I accept the White House claim, which is that the evidence is real, then the munition that they're talking about was not dropped from an airplane. It was put on the ground, and it was some kind of improvised dispersal munition. And in my report, I show roughly what this munition would have had to look like, again, assuming that the evidence was not tampered with. Now, that's not my assumption, I want to underscore. That's the White House assumption. So on many levels, the White House report really doesn't meet, quite frankly, the laugh test. It assumes that this photographic evidence was not tampered with, which I think is a long way, is a big assumption. It then misinterprets the photographic evidence and comes to a conclusion that is the opposite of what they're claiming. And speaking as an American citizen, I must say I want to know who signed off on this report. I think that this report was almost certainly politically motivated. My personal guess, is that there is no intelligence officer in the United States service who's worth anything in terms of their reputation who would have signed off on this report.
Professor.
So just keep that in mind when you see every jackass getting paid 30 grand a day to talk on TV about how we really need to do this. Sometimes wars are really good. Sometimes dropping bombs are really good. Can you think of a war that the media was against ever? I can't. They're on board for Grenada. They're on board for Libya. They're on board for Iraq. They were on board for Vietnam. They're on board for Afghanistan. And they're on board for this. Even though it's provable, they're not doing reporting. There's no one in Syria reporting this. There's no one from MSNBC in Syria. And then the guy who does ever come by to tell them stuff, Richard Engel, they don't listen to him. They don't listen to him. When Richard Engel tells them the stuff they're reporting is bullshit, they dismiss him. I saw it happen on their fucking network. And YouTube's demonetizing videos. The progressive, well, just the news people on YouTube. I thought it was just progressives. It's just news people. Turns out left and right. Because we tell the truth about stuff. Because we're not subservient to a corporation. We're just content providers. I don't have a sales team to get advertising. I never talk to an advertiser. But guess what? Right at the start of World War III, and when YouTube's rolling out their YouTube TV, all of a sudden, we're not getting monetized. People say, every once in a while, people say, Jimmy, I saw a commercial on one of your videos. Yeah, the revenue that we're supposed to be making is nowhere near what we're supposed to be making. It's not sustainable. And they know that, and they're doing it to everybody. I'm not going to stop making videos. You are supporting our show through our Patreon, through our premium program, buying T-shirts, using our Amazon link. I don't have. I feel assured that you will support this show because you're not going to get this information. RT, and you know what they say about RT? They're trying to get rid of RT in the United States. They put a professor. RT brings on a professor from MIT, and they're going to call that. Oh, we got to get rid. RT, isn't that a Kremlin? The Kremlin. That's from the Kremlin. Really? You want to get your news from fucking MSNBC, the New York Times, all the people who beat the war drums last time and lied us into a war? That's who you want to listen to? Or do you want to listen to a reporter talk to an MIT professor who's got no agenda and no axe to grind and a reputation? So that's why we're doing what we're doing. It's really sad that it feels to me exactly the same as it felt right before the Iraq War. I walk around, I look at other grown-ups, I'm like, you really okay with this? You really think we should go to fucking war? People are like, well, you know, I think we should, you know, if he gassed the Kurds and... No one can see through the propaganda that their government and establishment media produces, and if you think, the evidence is the Iraq War. All you need to do is turn to the Iraq War. The evidence is right there. That's how they manufacture a war, and they're doing it exactly the same way. And when I say they're doing it exactly the same way, people go, "What's the matter? Well, you're a conspiracy." Yeah, Tulsi Gabbard, because she's nuts too. She's a veteran, but she's nuts. Yeah, MIT professor, he's nuts. He's not. Conspiracy, sure, he's a professor and a scientist, and he looks at the evidence, and none of it makes sense, and it doesn't line up with what the government says or the media. So what? Who are you going to believe? An MIT professor who doesn't have an axe to grind? Or are you going to believe the corporate media and the government? Who are you going to believe? Who are you going to believe? Some jagoff on YouTube? Or are you going to believe Donnie Tanahans and the military? Or are you going to believe the CIA, maybe? Or maybe you're going to believe Donna Brazil, who's a fucking liar. Or maybe you're going to believe Debbie Wasserman Schultz, who's a cheater. Or maybe you'll believe those hosts on MSNBC who have proven to sell out their integrity for fucking money and shit on a progressive. That's who they are. Who are you going to believe? It's so confusing. Every time we've ever gone to war in my lifetime, the government has lied to me about it. I just don't know who to believe.